Hello and welcome to another geopolitical analysis video. Please like, subscribe, and share today's video as we're entering into very concerning times. Over the last few months, as the ceasefire has ended, the Ukrainian troops and Russian military has been sent in the eastern region of Ukraine, encircling Crimea. This of course has come no surprise, as the West has tried to encircle with NATO over the last few years, and Russia, threatened by the West, is sending troops and is dismissing any further talks. Moscow recently issued NATO message by locking down the aerial space south of Crimea between Sevastopol and Feodosia, as well as over the sea regions of the Black Sea. The move came a day after Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu said Russia is taking measures in response to threats from NATO. NATO in red and yellow on the map show the issued warning from Russia in connection to the military exercise that is being conducted in Black Sea. Most of the danger areas are in effect until the end of April. The passage from the Kerch Strait is restricted as well, especially for foreign warships. Of course, the US government has condemned these actions by stating that this is to undermine Ukraine altogether by blocking the maritime traffics and the regional area and sea routes. Of course, this is of no surprise, as we know that the US has been arming Ukraine and training with its national army. The EU Command Center of the US in Europe has been participating in drills conducting training with the Ukrainian army. National Safety Service of Ukraine has declared highest readiness for all military units in its regions from Kiev to Donetsk, Luhansk, but also near Crimea. Today, the movement of American soldiers in Poland has increased as tens of US F-15 and F-16 aircrafts moved in the Polish military airports, as announced by the Defense Minister of Poland, Mariusz Błaszczak. As every year, NATO conducts up to 40 large military drills near Russian borders, you can understand that justifiably so, Russia is trying to defend itself as it's being threatened by the encirclement of NATO. In the eastern part of Ukraine, drills with mortar shells and heavy artillery are being conducted, as both sides are preparing new trenches, while the increase in sniper action is causing fear in everyone. But perhaps the strongest evidence that Ukraine is entering a new phase is the action in the Black Sea and the constant movement of Russian forces on various fronts, having many European and Ukrainian analysts and politicians fearing that Russia is preparing for an invasion of Ukraine. The continued concentration of select large-scale Russian troops on land and sea on Ukraine's doorstep is rapidly spreading among Ukrainian military officers that Moscow is determined more than ever to enter, if necessary, into open military conflict. Ukraine, the Black Sea, the Crimean Peninsula, Taurus, which is mentioned by many, marked in red areas of paramount importance for Moscow. If there is no relative calm and diplomacy between the US and Russia, it will not take a literally second to show that the data of possible rupture could begin through mercenaries in the beginning, but also the continuation of a nightmare that will reign supreme not only in the region but throughout Europe. The stormy developments that are happening is worrisome, as US officials are working on a plan to transfer weapons to Ukraine in the event of a conflict with Russia. But as I've mentioned earlier, this has been going on the last few years since Crimea has separated. But the measures have not yet been approved by the US President Joe Biden, allegedly. Biden administration officials are reportedly preparing to send deadly weapons to Ukraine in the event of a Russian attack. And US sources say Biden is also considering additional financial sanctions against Russia. If such a thing is finally implemented, we all understand that the gates of hell will open in the area. There's also nuclear disaster scenarios stated by the Ukrainian side. A scenario of complete destruction of a nuclear plant in Ukraine by the Ukrainians is coming to light, as the plant is located near Donbas, with Kiev threatening Moscow not to invade Ukrainian territory. In the event of a possible Russian attack on Ukraine, Zaporozhye nuclear power plant officials, according to their post, would be able to carry out the last order and blow up the reactors. This frightening scenario was reported by the representatives of the Zaporozhye NPP plant in an official telegram from the power plant. The post caused a stir on the internet, and the webmasters of the website not only did not delete it, but also started to show their ingenuity by actually threatening with a Holocaust. We are clearly talking about extreme scenarios and a propaganda war between Ukraine and Russia against the background of the escalation of the situation in eastern Ukraine. Now, Russia's response has been that if the US and its allies do not listen to Russia, then they will have to respond immediately. The most obvious of these measures is the launch of a hybrid operation from the territory of eastern Ukraine, the aim of which will be to extend the controlled area at least to the Dnieper River. As a result, a buffer state will be created, the new Russia, which Moscow will immediately recognize its sovereignty, said Russian expert Alexander Vladimirov. Opponents of this approach argue that Russia in this case will be severely punished by the West. However, we have constant sanctions for any region in Russia. Russia's postponement of immediate action on the scenario of establishing a NATO base in Ukraine shifts a possible military conflict in the region not for a short time, but sharply increases the possibility of a Russian military conflict in NATO. There's another option for Russia as a strategic response to a possible deployment of NATO bases in Ukraine, and that is the deployment of many Russian military bases in Latin America. This move by Russia would be extremely painful for the US. If one wonders which states could agree to such military cooperation with Russia, then we would say that the list continues and includes several other countries. From the Latin American region, there's Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. From Havana, capital of Cuba, to Washington in a straight line, there's over 2,000 kilometers from Moscow to Washington in a straight line in 8,354 kilometers, thus saving time for Russian missiles if significant launch concludes the Russian expert. On the Ukraine-Crimea issue, foreign experts have stressed that Kiev will try to internationalize these issues. While the country has come very close to Turkey, which has its own plans, have we seen the UAV Bayraktar being deployed, and of course Russia issuing the suicide bombing of those UAVs from the Russian side that are actually downing the Bayraktar UAVs. Moscow has been sending over 40,000 troops, warships, and nuclear heads in the peninsula for months. The next scenario would be the creation of incidents in the Mediterranean Sea between Ukraine, Turkey, NATO with the Russian side, which could easily turn into something more dangerous and create a chain reaction. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share the video posted today. And let's all pray for peace.